World War III starts tomorrow. America's first 72 hours. 3 a.m. A phone buzzes on a nightstand in Ohio, then another in Texas, then one in California. Within minutes, the alert has reached 40 million devices. Not a test, not a drill. The words on the screen are simple, almost too simple for what they mean. National emergency declared. Somewhere over the Pacific, radar operators are watching blips that shouldn't exist. Somewhere in Washington, a phone line that hasn't rung in decades is ringing. And somewhere in a small town nobody has ever heard of, a father stands in his kitchen at 3 a.m., staring at his phone, wondering if he should wake his kids. This is not a history lesson. This is not a war that already happened. This is the war that could start tomorrow, and this is what it would do to the United States of America. It doesn't begin with a nuclear flash. It never does. It begins the way most catastrophes begin, quietly, almost boring, buried on page 6 of the news cycle until it isn't anymore. A naval incident in the Pacific. A downed aircraft nobody claims. A cyber attack that knocks out a regional power grid for 6 hours and is quietly blamed on a technical fault. Within a day, satellite images leak showing troop movements that don't add up. Within 2 days, a formal statement is issued from the White House press room. And for the first time in most Americans' lives, the words "state of war" are spoken without irony. Cable news splits into a wall of red banners. Group chats explode. Grocery store parking lots fill up faster than they did during the pandemic. People call their parents, their exes, their college roommates, the ones they haven't spoken to in years, just to hear a voice they trust say everything is going to be fine. Nobody quite knows if it will be. Inside the Situation Room, the mood is not chaos, it's something colder. Controlled urgency. Officials who have spent entire careers running tabletop exercises for exactly this moment now find themselves living inside one. The National Security Council convenes for the first of what will become dozens of emergency sessions. Congress is recalled from recess. The Federal Emergency Management Agency activates protocols that have sat untouched in binders since the Cold War. A national address is scheduled. Every network agrees to carry it live. A rare moment of unity in a fractured media landscape. The president speaks for 11 minutes. Calm, measured, careful not to promise victory, careful not to admit fear. The words, "Our allies stand with us," appear twice. The words, "This will not be easy," appear once. Behind closed doors, it's messier. Debates rage over troop deployments, over whether to activate reserves, over how much information the public can handle without panicking, and how much silence would be worse. Every decision made in these first hours will define the next chapter of American history, and everyone in that room knows it. At bases across the country, Fort Bragg, Camp Pendleton, Joint Base Lewis McChord, floodlights come on that haven't been used in years. Reservists get calls they thought they'd never receive. Men and women in their 30s and 40s, working office jobs, coaching Little League on weekends, suddenly find old uniforms in the backs of closets. The Selective Service System, a bureaucratic relic most Americans forgot existed, becomes the most searched term in the country overnight. Young men who filled out a form at 18 and never thought about it again are now refreshing government websites, trying to understand what Classification 1A actually means for their lives. Aircraft carriers already at sea change course. Fighter squadrons rotate toward forward bases in the Pacific and in Europe. Cargo planes begin round-the-clock runs, moving equipment across oceans in numbers not seen since the height of the Cold War. On the mainland itself, most Americans won't see tanks in the streets. Geography still protects the homeland from invasion, but they will feel the absence of neighbors, sons, daughters, co-workers, all pulled toward distant coastlines they may never have heard of before. For most Americans, the war doesn't look like explosions. It looks like empty shelves. It looks like gas station lines wrapping around the block. It looks like a neighbor's "for sale" sign going up because they've decided to move somewhere, anywhere, that feels safer, even though nowhere really is. Schools debate whether to hold emergency drills adapted for a new kind of fear. Churches, mosques, and synagogues fill up on a random Tuesday night. Therapists report a surge in anxiety calls unlike anything seen in years. Social media becomes a battlefield of its own. Misinformation spreading faster than official statements can correct it. In a strange, uneasy solidarity forming between strangers who suddenly realize they're all afraid of the same thing. In small towns, life looks almost unchanged on the surface, until you notice how quiet Main Street has gotten. How many houses now have a blue star flag hanging in the window, a symbol most people only ever saw in black and white photographs from their grandparents' war. Wall Street opens 90 minutes late on day one. When it does open, it doesn't so much fall as lurch, violent swings, automated circuit breakers kicking in twice before noon. Oil prices spike overnight. At the pump, the number 9 appears where a 6 used to be, and for many families, that single digit changes everything about how they live. Global shipping lanes tighten. Semiconductor supply chains, already fragile, seize up entirely as key manufacturing regions in Asia become contested. Hospitals warn of shortages in imaging equipment parts. Car manufacturers idle plants. Tech companies quietly delay product launches, unsure if the components they need will even exist in 6 months. Unemployment claims spike in one sector, even as defense contractors post help-wanted signs faster than they can process applications. It is, in a strange and unsettling way, an economy pulling in two directions at once, contracting in comfort, expanding in urgency, and ordinary families are caught in the middle, recalculating budgets they thought were finally stable. New York doesn't stop being New York, but something shifts in its rhythm. Financial district workers glance at their phones between meetings more than they used to. Subway announcements now include emergency preparedness reminders alongside service delays. In Los Angeles, air traffic near military installations gets rerouted, and residents near coastal bases notice fighter jets in the sky more often than usual. In Washington, D.C., security perimeters expand outward in quiet, deliberate stages. In Chicago, in Houston, in Seattle, port cities and infrastructure hubs, increased security becomes the new normal at bridges, tunnels, and power stations, a visible reminder that even a war fought overseas can reach a nation's shores in ways that have nothing to do with bombs. And yet, remarkably, day-to-day life persists. Coffee shops still open. Kids still go to school. Baseball games still get played, though now the national anthem seems to land differently, heavier, in a stadium full of people who all quietly hope this isn't the beginning of something none of them can take back. Allies convene. NATO holds emergency sessions in Brussels, debating what treaty obligations actually mean when tested in real time rather than in theory. Some nations respond immediately, decisively. Others hesitate, citing domestic politics, energy dependencies, populations exhausted by years of economic strain. Rivals watch closely. Every American move is analyzed for weakness, for opportunity, for signals about resolve. Neutral countries scramble to secure supply lines for fuel and food, unwilling to pick a side, but unable to avoid the consequences of a fractured global economy. International institutions, built in the aftermath of the last World War specifically to prevent this moment, strain under the weight of the very crisis they were designed to stop. Diplomats work back channels around the clock, searching for any off-ramp, any moment where restraint might still be chosen over escalation. This is the part nobody wants to imagine, and yet it's the part every planner in every government has already modeled. If de-escalation fails, if miscalculation compounds miscalculation, the conflict doesn't stay contained to distant borders. Cyberattacks target power grids and water systems. Communications go dark in isolated regions for hours, then days. Financial systems, already strained, face deliberate attempts at disruption. In the most extreme projections, the ones intelligence agencies hope never leave the drawing board, the specter of nuclear escalation looms, not as a certainty, but as a possibility too serious to dismiss. Analysts describe a world where deterrence still holds, where mutually assured destruction still functions as the grim guarantee of peace it has been for 80 years, but where the margin for error has never felt thinner. It is a future built entirely on hypotheticals. No one, not generals, not presidents, not the world's most advanced analytical systems, can say with certainty how far it would go or how fast. And yet, here is the truth that gets lost in every doomsday scenario. None of this has happened. Not the phone alert at 3 a.m., not the draft notices, not the empty shelves. It remains, for now, a possibility, not a prophecy. History has walked to the edge of this cliff before. In 1962, in 1983, in moments most people alive today never even learned about, and stepped back every single time. Not because war became impossible, but because enough people, in enough rooms, chose caution over catastrophe. The question this story leaves behind isn't will it happen? It's simpler and harder. If it did, would America be ready? Would its people? Would its families? That is a question worth asking long before the phone ever rings.